Hello, I'm Elgato and welcome back to the video. Today I want to talk about one of the big issues in gaming right now that's been on my mind a lot recently, but has just come up in the news one more time because Sony and their denial of cross-platform is one of the big issues I feel like for console gaming right now, and it's one of the big issues that Sony really needs to work out. So let me talk about what the news is recently, because as you're probably aware, Sony has been not allowing any game to have cross-platform on these Sony servers. It's been done by accident before, and they've demanded it's been shut off, but it's gone a whole nother level of ridiculous now because the Fortnite gaming system, which uses Epic Games account, will not let you play on other devices, in particular the Switch, which just came out, if you have used that same account on your PlayStation. And today I wanted to talk more about this, kind of deep dive into what's happening, the history behind it, all the sort of stuff you might need to know, because I think this is the sort of moment that might change things because it involves a game as big as Fortnite. So hopefully you do enjoy the video, give it a like if you like it, help us out the channel out, let us know you do like these kind of dives into an issue of gaming, such as this one, which again, I feel like is really close to my heart because I think a cross-platform world would be such a great thing. I've personally had the situation where I've been like, oh, I play on Xbox and my friends play on PlayStation so many different times where it's just like, oh, we can't play together then. And one of the great things I love about the modern gaming world in 2017, 2018 is that more and more games are going cross-platform. You can even play with your phone friends on your consoles in some places. You can play with your PC friends if you're playing on a Switch. There's so many games that like to do these crazy cross-platform experiences because it's not much effort to actually implement. It turns out that this whole time when Sony and Xbox and to some extent Nintendo were all saying like, oh yeah, the reason you can only play with friends on the same platform is because, PSN is an entirely different system and the networks just don't interchange. That's the, kind of myth that was sold to us for all these years. And then Rocket League comes out and proves that actually, no, we can crossplay as soon as we want to. And then, Minecraft comes out, has the same thing. And then Fortnite comes out, does the exact same thing. However, there's one big issue with the Fortnite that, like I said, and like the subject of this video is all about, that Fortnite is not only restricting cross-platform play. So if you have a PlayStation, you can't play with other friends on Xbox One and, Nintendo Switch. They very specifically target those platforms as like, oh, they're competitors, hate if you play with them, which is kind of bad by itself. But the next level, the level where this gets ridiculous, the level where I think something has to change here is that if you've ever logged onto your Epic Games account on your PlayStation, you are not able to play that account on your Nintendo Switch. So if you play mostly on PC and then you played on PlayStation a few times, like a lot of people have, you are not able to use that same account on your Nintendo Switch. And you might think, what's the big deal? Like, I make new accounts for things all the time. And this screen right here where it says the Fortnite account is associated with a platform which does not allow it to operate on Switch, neither the Fortnite website nor Epic customer service are able to change this. To play Fortnite on Switch, please create a new account. It might be like, well, just make a new account, fix that easy. And a lot of people will defend Sony by saying something like that, but the truth behind why this is so ridiculous is because this means that one of the biggest games of all time, one of the biggest games of our time at least, is not able to be played if you happen to have ever played on a PlayStation, which means if you've spent money on skins, in some cases people have spent hundreds on skins, if you have, got all those victory royales and you've got all those stats ranked up, the challenges, you won't be able to complete the same ones on your Switch to your PlayStation, which essentially renders the game pointless, renders the version pointless, because you have to play on like a whole brand new account. And the only reason behind that is because Sony is so protective of their system that they have placed a block. Or again, it's assumed to be on their side because Epic clearly says it's not their problem. They said the Fortnite website nor the Epic customer service can't fix it. So they're clearly saying that this is a Sony requirement. If you have an account which is linked to a Sony product, you can't then link that same account to a Nintendo Switch product, which is honestly insane. I think we can all agree on that, right? And yeah, this is an extension of Sony's policy of trying to stop you playing with other platforms. They don't want you playing with Xbox One friends or Switch friends. Presumably, they want them to hop over to the PlayStation 4, but now they don't want you to have the option to be like, well, if my friends are on the Switch right now, I guess I'll play with them, because if you pick up a Switch, you try to log in, you won't be able to do that. That is the level of holding you hostage Sony is doing. They will not let you transfer to another platform, which is just really quite silly. But let's talk about the history, the context of this, before we talk about what the solutions are, where this might go, because it is worth mentioning that cross-platform play has been something that's been discussed ever since the 360 era. So we're talking like almost 15 years ago now. There are a lot of games at the start that were like, oh, we'll have similar servers across the 360 and the PS3. And there were a couple of games that did attempt this. Portal's a famous example. There was a really, really old one of Shadowrun. A few games attempted this, but they were never allowed cross-platform between the two platforms. And supposedly, again, according to what we know, back then, the reason for it was because Xbox, Microsoft, would not allow cross-platform play. They wanted you to play with your 360 friends, have the same systems in place, and that was because, at the time, Xbox was the market leader, Xbox Live was the dominant service, and obviously they wanted it to stay that way, and it seems like, well, this is just the same thing happening again, right? And I feel like that is kind of true to some extent. Like, it is worth mentioning that, even though Microsoft and Nintendo are cross-playing now, and like, it's Sony being the bad guys, at one point it was the other way around, where Microsoft were being the guys in charge. They were the ones who were holding you in a place and not allowing you to play with friends, but I think it is worth mentioning that now we actually have games which are cross-platform on other devices. You know, the whole idea of cross-platform play was just not something that really, you know, even existed back then. It was an idea, and the idea was being stopped, but now we have a real physical thing. We have a way for people to play on all platforms at the same time. Fortnite accidentally enabled it. This is the best thing. For a while, people were playing with PlayStation accounts on their Xbox, and the only way someone spotted was because there are different name formatting rules. So someone worked out they were playing with PlayStation players, it went viral, and for a couple of days, people were just playing cross-platform, and then as soon as Sony, you know, got the attention of it, they shut it down. Even though there are games right now which are cross-platform, you know, there's two particular examples. There is Minecraft and there is Fortnite. You can play on your iOS phone, your Android phone, your PC, your Xbox, your Switch, all in the same lobby, and then there are separate lobbies if you play on PlayStation. There is a real cross-platform trend which is happening. The future of gaming is looking to be cross-platform, and Sony is trying their hardest to stop it. And the reason that I think this is bad is not only because it was bad when Microsoft tried to stop it roughly 10 years ago. That is, you know, bad as well, and you know, if I was, you know, making videos back then, I think it would have been a terrible thing, and I would have let you know. But it's not only bad because they're trying to stop something right now. They've stopped, again, you know, Fortnite accounts being across. They're blocking, you know, your Fortnite friends from playing with you if you are on Xbox and you have friends on PlayStation, or vice versa. They're not only bad because, you know, like a lot of people who play PlayStation 4 want the Bedrock version of Minecraft, can't have it because they don't want anything to do with another platform. And, you know, although there are other issues with that one, such as the Microsoft account, you can see how there is this whole trend of Sony deliberately blocking cross-platform, and I don't think that that is something anyone should defend in the gaming community. I think that if you consider yourself, you know, whatever, a gamer, a player, whatever you want to call yourself in the modern age, if you're a Sony person, then that's great. You can have more friends that might have to come over to Sony and use platforms with you. That's wonderful. You don't have to play with those Xbox plebs or whatever. But if you care about all platforms, you care about games wherever they are, I think this is just an objectively bad thing. Sony is stopping something wonderful from happening in the future, which could be a future where, again, most games will allow you to play cross-platform. Again, exclusives are always going to exist in some form. Time exclusives are always going to exist. But if you have a multiplayer game and you have friends on another multiplayer system, you should be able to play together. That is something that every, you know, the other console manufacturers are starting to agree on. That is something that PC games have always allowed. That is something that mobile games seem to be on board with since the start, as you'll see with stuff like Hearthstone. And I think the fact that Sony is blocking this is kind of a terrible thing, not only for, you know, right now, the PlayStation players, again, the ones who want to play the new versions of Minecraft, the ones who want to play, you know, like, again, Fortnite on their Switch as well as their PlayStation, but it's also potentially damaging to the future of games as a whole. And I get why they're doing it. They are in a market leader position, and potentially they can force more people to buy PlayStations this way, but that's why I think that if you've ever been tempted by a PlayStation because of this cross-platform thing, make sure that you don't. Make sure that if you are picking up a console, you don't have a current generation one. I know there's a lot of you. You've got to bear in mind that Sony might keep all of your stuff hostage, whereas it looks like the other platforms, you know, Xbox Live and Xbox Live Achievements, they've gone over to phones now. They've gone over to the, you know, PC with Games for Windows Live, if that even still exists. But your other stuff is not going to be held captive. It's not going to be forced into one place because of, you know, the virtue that you spent money with them once in the past. And that is something that I think is just important to get across. There are a bunch of petitions you can look up, you can sign if you want. I don't think Sony even cares. I think that the way they ignore it, the way they try to say it's child safety that we're really looking after, I mean, there's plenty of child safety on the iPhones and Android devices, but not on the Xbox One or the Switch. There's all these ridiculous things that Sony is making up, and I think the simplest solution is just like, guess what? If you have a PlayStation already, that's great. I have mine. I like it a lot. It's a good piece of hardware. But if you are considering purchasing one, don't get one. Pick up any other console because you won't be locked into that console. You'll be able to take, you know, that with you to other places, such as, again, I play Minecraft on my phone as well as on my Xbox One. If I play Rocket League, I can play it on my PC as well as my Switch. And when I play Fortnite, guess what? I can play it on my Switch as well. I don't have to lose all my skins. What a radical concept. And yeah, I think the kind of key takeaway here is there needs to be some pressure on Sony. And although there's a lot of online stuff going on right now, I think the easiest way is we need a, you know, whenever the next generation comes out. The PS5 is always being spoken about as a just around the corner thing, but whenever, you know, the PlayStation 5 is announced, I think cross-platform has to be on the list of demands before you pick it up. If, you know, when it comes to the next generation, and you see like an Xbox 2, let's call it, because that's a terrible name, but you see the next generation of consoles, I think that you should have cross-platform as a list of one of the things that makes a console better or worse, because Sony claims to be for the players, but what they really mean is for the people that are on their platform, or to put it in a more accurate way as far as the company is concerned, for the payers. So with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like it if you liked it, share if you really liked it. We're about to hit 10 minutes, so I have to stop talking really quickly or people will accuse me of just trying to make it over 10 minutes. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.